maintenant c'est bon, je vais tester de partager mon écran.
Je sais pas si tu peux afficher sur le drag and drop. Ensuite, je peux prendre les deux USB. I tried to remember, but there's a lot of Oh no, I'm not too stressed. It's just that I'm right.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Ok, et maintenant si je veux, and now if I want to,
So this is the host computer. That is a client. He can present from that computer.
how do you make it full screen with that? Or if it's enough?
This is going to do this.
Yes. Okay, so you changed the laptop.
Full screen mode. Control L.
Okay, so but now it's dependent on your laptop. Do you have to configure something specific
No.
in case we have to use someone
So
else?
you just need to log in.
Yeah, okay, but just to change any settings in terms of inputs, outputs, whatever, it just works.
It's PDF. So, but this is just this
People
cable.
online,
So for the camera, look at the camera. You can move it around. If you want, you just need to,
and you can zoom too. You need to. I think that's it. And all the microphones should work. Let's try it for a few minutes. Yeah, and they should hear.
no, sharing is there. So, tell me.
Television's on the front.
Okay.
Camera is connected, sound, everything goes through that one.
Okay.
House is there.
Okay.
So discussions there. That is typically in this one.
Okay.
So if you move around here, it's gonna show.
Yeah, okay.
So you should do now.
No problem. And I'm switching slides by the keyboard right there, so I have to be seated here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now just to know whether I was at the podium
That's
or here.
not.
That is, I should not touch that. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Anything else? Hello.
I'm a volunteer for OSR. Yes, and I'll be during the camera for
Okay.
you. And
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think some of our folks are monitoring the chat for question and the OHBM app for questions as well, just so that we can, I try to cover all the angles there also, because I know I will be a bit too busy just Cool. All right, thank you.
oh no, I can.
When they speak.
No, I don't think I'm a type of like Okay, can you all hear me? Yes, okay. Sorry, I'm sort of a bit of a test mic to get started. I think we still have 1 minute before we are officially on. I mean, we are on Cradcast already, but just to let the few last people just come in. So welcome to the BIDS Town Hall, our yearly BIDS event. Very happy to see you all here. For those who don't know me, I'm Remy. I'm one of the BIDS maintainers. As I usually say, in a previous life, I used to try to understand the brain. Now I spend my time trying to tell people how to name their files, because that's what BIDS is about. Good. Now we got that out of the way. So a few things. The slides are available as Google Slides. You can just scan the QR code that's on many of them. So in case you want to have access to them. And if you want to comment on them. Also, some of the slides might be a bit busy, so I might have to go a bit quickly over them. But in case you want to go back to them, they're available, and there are links to access to different materials that's on them. Okay. All right, so a few more people slowly coming in. All right, it's 10:30. Let's get started. So this is going to be the menu for today. We're going to go through some organizational updates, some updates on sort of the BIDS-wise technical things. Then we're going to go through where the different BIDS extension proposals are, so any updates on the different BEPs. Then we're going to hear a little bit about the BEP, the BIDS connectivity projects, and then some information about community project. And then we're going to open the floor for the community feedback. As we want this last part to be the main thing, I'm going to have to go fairly quickly through all of it. If there are any leaders of any BEP in there, I'm going to be the one presenting it in case you didn't get my message. I'm very sorry about this last minute change of plan. If I completely misrepresent where your extension is at, please just come up during the Q&A at the end to just make sure that you explain and correct me. Okay. All right, so first, big picture organizational updates. So we've had our elections at the last fall, and Cyril Pernet and Yaroslav Halchenko have joined the BID steering group, and Melanie and Russ have stepped down. But we're going to have new elections coming this fall, so this is going to be how it's going to be every year. We've got yearly elections to renew BID steering group members. So if you want to sort of nominate yourself to be part of the steering group, you're going to get more info coming soon, and there'll be 2 positions available. From the BIDS maintainer side, we've got new maintainers. We have Christine Rogers, who's joined us, Nell and Hardcastle and Kimberly Ray, who have joined us. Christine Rogers will be helping with EG and multimodal aspect of things. Nell has been actually helping a lot already. She's been working the shadows on the BIDS validator, and now she's like coming into the light with all of us, and we're really happy to have her as part of the team. And Kimberly is really helping us just manage that herd of cats to just not get dispersed in all many directions. But we want new maintainers to join the group because we need people with expertise in the many aspects of BIDS. So if you're interested in joining us, please reach out. We'll be very happy to just welcome you into the group. Also, there'll be updates to our governance that will be part also of the same votes that will be happening at the same time as the election for the BID steering group. There's a proposal for what the change to the governance. It's in a Google Doc that you can read and comment at this URL. And we also have BIDS merch available at this address. All the profits go to the Wikimedia Foundation, so please just go and get all the things that you need to make sure that everyone knows you're a BIDS fan. And okay, so now technical updates. So there's been a lot of work that many of you might not be aware about the BIDS to create what we call a BIDS schema. If you don't know what that is, pretty much just the BIDS specification is a human readable thing. But now we would like to have machines to also be able to sort of have understand what BIDS is. So we have a whole set of terms and rules written in YAML that exist. And there's also a single JSON that encompasses all of the content of the BIDS schema. What it allows us to do as BIDS maintainers is now we can just directly write a lot of the document of the specification just by reading from that file, but it also means that a lot of tooling can just now use this standardized set of files to just either validate or do things in general that are BIDS related. The main one that we want to do is to have the BIDS validator to just use these files as input to just run the validation. And there's a bunch of people working every Thursday to work on the schema. So if you want to join us, let us know. And there's also a sort of a version of the validator that works just with the schema, and you can try it at this URL. Okay, BIDS examples. I realized during the hackathon that was happening a few days ago that some of you who might be BIDS expert and very knowledgeable about BIDS did not know about the BIDS example. So I added this slide here, especially now that we have a website for it, where if you click on any of those links that you see, for example, on the slide, it will directly bring you to the repository where you have BIDS examples that you can sort of browse. They're very lightweight because there's no data in them, and you can they can quickly sort of give you an idea of how to organize data for any of the modalities you find in BIDS. Similarly, if you are thinking to work on extending BIDS by working on an extension, we have documentation for all the BEP leads. We're trying to centralize all of them here because before they were sort of in several documents and wikis, so now everything is centralized in one single place. And now we're going to move on to the updates about the different BEPs. So that's the part where I'm going to have to sort of admit that for some of them, I'm not entirely sure about all the details. And so that's when some of you may have to correct me after that. Cool. OK, so first of all, sort of the big overview picture is that in case you don't know what are the extensions that exist in BIDS, they're all listed on our BIDS website. So in case you figure you have a new modality that you don't know how to organize, go and have a look at this list. It might give you pointers on how to do this. And BEPs that have actually been already sort of integrated into BIDS, we have the BEP 29 for motion data, which should be released soon in version 1.9 of BIDS. And we got the BEP 30 for near-infrared spectroscopy that was already released in the version 1.8. And this year, since last town hall, we got 4 new BEPs, one for non-invasive brain stimulation, one for atlases, for dimension T reduction, and for functional ultrasounds. And I think you'll get some updates in the incoming slides too for more details on those. All right, so first we're going to focus on the BIDS extension that concern raw data. The first one is eye tracking data. So for this one, it's getting very close to be sort of ready in terms of what the content is, and you have like already an HTML preview of what would be going in there. Eye tracking data would not be a new data type. It would be going along with any of your other data file like BOLD or EEG. And we're working on creating converting tools to facilitate the process of getting data from your eye tracker directly into a BIDS format. And sort of creating new examples to actually also show you how you should organize your data in this case. So magnetic resonance spectroscopy, it's pretty much close to completion. I think it will go in fairly soon after motion, so after the next version of BIDS is released. That should pretty much just be coming soon in the fall. But they're looking for final reviews, and they will be opening the BEP for a community review after this, and also making sure that some of the DICOM terms we have in there align with what already exists. Animal electrophysiology, there's been a lot of work on this front. So the idea is to support in vitro and in vivo recording, whether it's something like patch clamp or cultural cells and things like this. So there's no technical problem at the moment. The only problem is one of the many. Julia will be apparently leaving academia, so they are looking for someone to sort of like take her place. And when you know the work that she does, those are big shoes to fill. So I think we're going to have to sort of wrap things up before she leaves. And the idea would also to sort of make a lot of move in the coming fall on this one. So phenotypic data, oops. So this is led by Eric, who is another of the maintainers. There's been a lot of progress on this. There's actually a poster that Eric will be presenting on Tuesday at the software demonstration. The bandwidth has been a bit more limited because Eric can tell you that having a newborn is something that does take quite a bit of time. And there's still a lot of discussion that needs to happen on how to organize sort of different type of phenotypic data in different folders. And there's some agreement that still needs to happen on some of those. That's also a new BEP, so non-invasive brain stimulation. There's been a lot of progress on this as well. I've attended several of their meetings. A lot of people from the community of TMS and others and other type of brain stimulation have joined the discussion. And they're creating real-world they're creating examples based on real-world data they already have. But they need more input from people who do other type of stimulation, not including like electric and ultrasonic stimulation. And they have so on the right, that's the kind of the space of the different use case of data they're trying to cover. So there are many, many things that need to be considered. One thing that might already happen, though, is that some part of this extension, like neural navigation data and how you structure that, might already go in as a separate little sort of inclusion to BIDS already. And they're already collaborating with a lot of the software that works with this data to make everything compatible. And then functional ultrasounds, that's the last BEP that just came in. Also, they've been moving forward pretty quickly on this one, having regular meetings. And also they're in the process of like creating data sets to sort of see how the BEP works in practice. And they might have to adapt some of how the timing metadata for this type of sort of modality is handled. So now I'm going to move on to BEP updates about derivatives. So just to let you know, we had a big get-together with several people working on different derivative modality at the end of June in Copenhagen, and that has helped sort of align how those different teams were working to make sure that we were sort of speaking the same language. So for structural pre-processing, that one has been sort of there for a long time, so it is stable. The problem is that there might actually, it has not been touched in a while, so maybe we'll now actually need to be realigned with some of the other derivative BEP that are coming. fMRI derivatives is also another one that has been sort of stable for a while, has not sort of moved in, and also there's, after this meeting we had in Copenhagen, there might be some changes that will need to be made, but it is already implemented in the schema, and they're waiting for the full schema to be sort of ready to run through validation to actually merge it. There's some parts of it that overlap with other BEPs, so we're going to have to figure out how we sort of decide how those, which BEP handles which of those aspects. So electrophysiology data, so EEG, MEG, intracranial EEG. At the moment, the focus it's to work on channels, so sensor space and time, so everything that has to do with like frequency domain, or will be sort of tackled a bit later. They had a lot of information in this BEP on how to track provenance and how you analyze your data. That has now been delegated to the BEP 28, which specializes in handling provenance. That was one of the outcome of that meeting in Copenhagen, so that those people started talking to each other, and it decided, okay, I take care of this, you take care of that. A lot of things that has happened in several of those derivatives BEP is that we realized that we were creating too many sort of entities. The file name space was getting way too complicated. So now we sort of are trying to trim this down a lot and to sort of rely also on data formats that already exist, that we already use. They already have examples on GitHub, and other aspects of this type of data, like as I was saying, frequency domain will be sort of tackled a bit later in that work. PET pre-processing. So that's also one BEP that moved along pretty well during the Copenhagen meeting, trying to sort of align with what the other people were doing. And there are some examples that are available already on GitHub. But there's also need for more sort of to cover more of the sort of data that exists out there and which type of processing goes along with that type of data. So it needs more like community feedback and engagement on this. And they also needs more synchronization with the different type of modalities that are around there. Yeah, and that's another one that a lot of people apparently are, you know, the fall 2023 is going to be busy time for us because it seems that all the BEP feel that they're going to be done by then. So if you don't hear about the maintainers before Christmas, that's normal. And BEP 35 has a very long name, a modular extension for individual participant data mega-analysis with non-compliant derivatives. So this is how you organize derivative data when some of the data sets that you have are BIDS compliant, some others are not. So it's how to organize data sets of data sets. So the structure of the BEP has been revised and sort of streamlined a lot. And the idea is that now it should be a lot more, you know, user-friendly to know how you want to organize that kind of data. Yeah, there's been a lot of back and forth and comments on the revised version. But it's definitely another one that needs a lot more attention. So I encourage you to go and have a look. And people who might be potentially interested in adopting this BEP they have a list of potential new users that should be contacted soon. So now we fall into the BEPs that don't exactly fall into either the raw category or the derivative category. One is space and mapping. So there's been, from what I remember, there's been a lot of progress very early on this BEP, and they sort of decided what was the data format they were going to use to sort of store that type of information. And there's been a few sort of like fixes and features that have been sort of worked on, but there's been limited bandwidth to sort of move on this, and a few blockers in terms of regarding like how surface transform and X5 storing would be handled. So there's still like work that needs to be done on this so that this BEP can sort of keep moving. So BEP 19 was an old project that goes back to the very beginning of BIDS on how BIDS should handle DICOM metadata, and apparently this BEP we decided to sort of is most likely going to be sort of removed and sort of being replaced by how can we support DICOM sort of format directly into BIDS. And Yaroslav has been starting also discussion directly with DICOM working groups to sort of build bridges between the DICOM community and the BIDS community, which is something I think we need a lot more of in general. So a lot of these informations are either in open pull request or in GitHub issues so that you can know what's happening on this front. BIDS application 2.0 would be how you sort of, BIDS applications are these containerized tools that if you give them a BIDS data set, will run completely automatically to run your pre-processing or something else on your data. BIDS application 2.0 is a BEP that tries to sort of expand on the initial work that was done for this to sort of improve sort of the API and things like this. It's at the moment the specification has not moved because there's not been a need for it to move a lot, but we need sort of examples on tools that actually implement the interface and library that can help sort of make it easier to generate sort of the things that go around this. Provenance, so that's the one I was mentioning earlier. So there's been a lot of progress on this at the BIDS derivative meeting. Specifications are have been moving forward quite well. And there's a set of examples for different type of how you would track provenance for your pre-processed data. And sort of, yeah, in general, like many other BEPs, we're waiting for feedback from the community on what they think about this BEP so that they can move forward. There's been a lot of also discussions with people involved in this BEP with software developers because they are the one who are going to be the most interested in how to sort of encode how data is being transformed during a pre-processing or doing actually analysis in general. Computational modeling, the PR has been open for a little while, so you can always view it as an HTML document and give feedback on it. There's an app created that make it easier to sort of go from neural simulation data into sort of the format of this that this BEP proposes to organize the data in. So something that came up during the discussion of this BEP is that there is some overlap between the different extensions when it comes to what they are sort of are trying to work on, and it would be good if there was more effort to sort of figure out which BEP actually works on which aspect. And then there's a list of BEP that have had either little progress or are looking for a new lead. So that includes, for example, the BEP for susceptibility-weighted imaging, for CT scans, for microelectrode recordings, or sort of advanced diffusion-weighted imaging. So if you have some time, or you know someone who has some time and who could help with those, please let us know. We're always looking for help. Okay, so now it's about the BIDS connectivity project, and is Per in the room? I'll give you the floor for this one because you know that way better than I do. So this way, you'll be able to tell us everything about that.
Bonjour. Hi, good morning, folks. As Remy mentioned, I'm going to talk about the BIDS connectivity project, which actually covers quite a few BEPs. And the whole idea that is happening in this NIH-funded project is that we want to capture and describe this broad and versatile space that we have when it comes to connectivity experiments and data that are through a set of overarching components, which you see on the right. And this entails BEP16, diffusion-weighted imaging derivatives and our models. We made some progress there, identifying outstanding issues and roadblocks because it's already on GitHub, and we just need to map out, solve these last outstanding issues in order to actually start the merging process there. As you can see, we've got a few problems specifically related to the model aspects in there. For example, of course, the diffusion-weighted imaging ones, but also ICA. So BEP39 is a big overlapping thing there. And as Remy mentioned, computational models as well. So the whole model maps, related definitions, and file types need to be mapped out better so that it works across BEPs. And yeah, our perspectives are for this one, hopefully, fingers crossed, should be open for the merge discussion soon. Then we got the generic BIDS connectivity data schema, which had some sort of a light relaunch because we resituated this BEP to not only cover connectivity data, but to cover any relationship data between basically a set of two distinct entities more generally, so that we can not only cover connectivity, but also, let's say, similarity, distance, and all these sort of relationships. And there we run into a bit of a problem of defining the precise scope and types of the relationships that we want to cover. Sorry for everyone here that does effective connectivity. This is not going to be included. It has to be another BEP. Hate to break it to you. And we have several cross dependencies that need to be solved before we can actually bring this BEP to the next stage. However, we are in a the status of the Google Doc is very good. We're about to finalize the draft. We're currently stressing the proposal across different data types and then plan to move it together by the end of the summer. Then we got atlases. As mentioned by Remy in the beginning, this is a new BEP. We started it not even a year ago. We have the first complete draft of the proposal in Google Docs. And the problems we had there still to this day is the nomenclature regarding what an atlas is and or what it should entail. So after starting last September during the meeting in Copenhagen, which was last month, people were like, what actually is an atlas? You know, it's like a very philosophical thing. And the other problem is that there's drastically diverging requirements by different data types, because in the beginning we didn't really think about PET, not because we have a problem with PET, it's just that none of us did PET. And then the PET folks were like, oh, this is not going to work out. So we've got to adapt there quite a bit. So right now, that's what we do. We work with the modality-specific BEPs to finalize the draft and also move to GitHub by the end of the summer. And last but not least, we got dimensionality reduction-based networks. So basically, things like ICA, PCA, any sort of gradients, these sort of approaches. As the Atlas BEP, we also started this one last September, have a good first draft up on Google Docs. And going back to the diffusion and the model-related things, same problem as mentioned before. And another big problem there is finding overarching metadata across all these analyses, because we don't only deal with a lot of different data types, so anything diffusion, fMRI, EEG, what have you, but also all these different analyses. So we need to come up with a good way of providing or suggesting metadata that works across all these different things. And there we also currently stress testing it to see if it breaks, or let's say when it breaks, and then see how we can address that. And again, we're going to move that together by the end of the summer. And if you are further interested in any of the things we do in the BIDS connectivity project, and if you say, but what about XYZ, and there needs to be 10 other BEPs, please let us know, of course, through the usual communication channels. We have an open project meeting every first and third Tuesday of the month on Jitsi. We have this website where we provide all the information about the project and the BEPs. So yeah, if you're interested in it, we're super happy for everyone who wants to talk about this. Thanks so much.
Okay. Okay. And now just a few updates on the community in general. So now we've got about more than 300 contributors, and they should all be listed in the README of the BIDS specification with pictures and all. If at any point you need to update your affiliation, emails, ORCID, you can do it via the BIDS specification wiki directly. So that's one thing to know. We're also trying to sort of get a better idea of what's the impact of BIDS in general. So, for example, we're trying to sort of start collecting data, but BIDS in general in the wild world out there. This would be just, for example, the amount of citation of the different BIDS paper, which got up to about more than 500 last year. And we're trying to sort of get more information like this, especially if, in case you want to sort of include BIDS in one of your grants. It might be useful to have sort of data you can quickly copy and paste into your grant application, for example. In terms of community projects, a couple of things. BidStats model, which was a BEP, is pretty much ready to go. So you can, it's something that where you can specify the type of GLM analysis you want to run on your fMRI data in one single file. BIDS apps, there's been a few updates on this front. If you are a user of the BIDS app website, you might see that a lot of things that used to be green are now red. Is because we are trying to take care of some things and sort of bring them back online and up to date. So that's, if you see some change on that front, it's normal. We know about it. But if you encounter issues basically when you use some of them, just let us know. We'll try to fix that. Some new BIDS apps have been added to the list. Two of them, for example, are Fitlints and BIDSPM. They actually use the BidStats model to actually run entire mass univariate analysis on your data. If you want to know more, I'm talking about that at a poster. BIDSMRI is an app that can, if I remember correctly, given functional MRI data, will sort of tell you where the participant was looking on the screen during the experiment. We've got new tools that are coming up that are listed on the BIDS website. A few of them, NCP-BIDS is a Python package to index your BIDS data set, a bit like PyBIDS does, except that it's faster. BIDS Pydantic, if any of you has to work with data classes and you in Python and you need some sort of interaction with a BIDS data set, that's what you want to look at. And SnakeBIDS is a big wrapper around SnakeMake that allows you to make workflows a bit like a BIDS app very quickly, so that you don't have to sort of code entire workflow from scratch. And if you have any ideas that BIDS is not doing enough, it's not doing your own very special thing, yeah, and you want to come up with your own BEP, yep, that can totally happen. But as I said before, make sure that it doesn't exist already, so check the list of BEPs that exist. But for example, someone talked to me last week or a few days ago about maybe BIDS could be used to actually cover cardiac MRI. So now we're going to go from BIDS to SIDS, which is actually one of the very internal jokes we have in the BIDS people was like, well, it's soon going to go from BIDS to just being IDS. And sometimes it's not even imaging data. So it's going to be DS, and where do we go from there? Anyway, latest news. So there is a manuscript in progress about the past, present, and future of BIDS. I plan to sort of mark the 10 years of the BIDS standards, led by Russ, Chris Markovitz, and Chris Kokolewski, and co-authors by BIDS contributors at large. And if you're interested in reading the manuscript and where it is and give feedback and contribute, you can send an email to, there's a discussion on our BIDS mailing list that you can follow to sort of, there's a form that allows you to sort of contribute to the manuscript. And with that, I would like to thank all the different BIDS funders, INCF, the Laura John Arnold Foundation, NCF, and NIH. And now, this is when we open the floor to you all, so that you can, if you have questions, suggestions, complaints, anything, you can come either to talk to the mic here. If you're on Crowdcast, you can post your questions on Crowdcast, or you can also do it via the OHBM app. I think we have a few people monitoring those, so please, come on up. Yeah, take this. Go for it, Stefan. Of course.
Hello. Name Steph. Let's skip that. It's fine. I have just a comment for the BEP question mark, which is basically the DICOM support. So some of you might be familiar with a different community that is called ISMRM, and they have a thing that is similar to BIDS, but not really. It's called the ISMRMRD. Yeah, ISMRMRD. It's very complicated to say, but that's basically just for DICOMs. And it's their data structure for basically what the BEPS would entail, right? And so I wonder if it would be more interesting to just have the two groups communicate and maybe try to get ISMRMRD actually support BIDS and vice versa, and have the two interfaces cohere together rather than repeating something that somebody else already did. But hey.
Oh, you want community to talk to each other and not reinvent the wheel?
Oh, no, sorry. My bad. My fault.
Really? I think our DICOM expert, Yaroslav, is not here, right? Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. I didn't know about that one, but that's okay. Adding that to the list. There are issues, just add it to the issue.
Hi, my name's Steven. I was hoping, could you comment a little bit about BIDS 2.0? And I guess what I'm really curious is that, is it going to get harder to move to 2.0 as we keep on growing 1.0, or is it going to be more of a systemic change that's kind of agnostic to how much we expand 1.0 or BIDS 1?
Anyone else want to take this one? Yeah.
I think actually is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is making sense. Okay. So I think actually BIDS 2.0 is getting more realistic with the schematization, because now there's going to be a way of kind of concretely describing this is what it was here, this is what it was there, and then we can make converters to help people move from one to the other, or have a tool that accepts either one or two. While it was all just text, 2.0 was basically impossible.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and read the thing on the social Q&A. So somebody asks, is there a simple GUI to convert DICOMs to NIFTYs and BIDS structure without the need to have any coding skills? And the answer is yes. There are two tools that I know of. One is called Easy BIDS out of Franco Pastilli's group, the Brain Life, and the other is BIDScoin, which I'm failing to remember who's doing that, but at Donders, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there are any others. If you do, maybe post it onto the issue list.
Hello, everyone. I'm the poor victim of the cardiac MRI proposal. I'm Jis. I work at the Paris Brain Institute, but cardiac. So the topic came up because we recently got involved into a project which involves multi-scale analysis on health data warehouse, but with representative imaging protocol of the whole body. And we got access to like a multi-site data set, which includes brain MRI, cardiac MRI, and this very exotic modality called CT. So that raised the question of what about BIDS for non-brain imaging? So that includes cardiac, that includes abdominal, or even like full body imaging. So we are looking for support to get the initial set of proposals started, like feedback from past or current BEP leaders on how to effectively lead such an effort, or just plain moral support, because I think we're gonna need a lot. I've got a lot of cardiac images to show you. So if you are interested, like please reach out, and thank you.
Actually, because we have some of the BID steering group, what would be the process so that maybe other people are aware of how to do this? What would be the process if someone has a new BEP and how they should go about? Should I just explain that a little bit, just in case, or just, yeah? Oh yeah, exactly. So can I navigate this? So for anyone who's interested in joining a BEP, yes. So you have some sort of guide on what are the different steps you would have to go through to actually just start working on a BEP, to sort of, who you have to reach out and what are the different steps, what are the sort of different requirements. So that would be one thing to sort of start looking at if you're interested in doing that, for example. But maybe it's always good to maybe have some early discussions to see, does it even fall under the scope of BIDS? So that could be definitely one thing we can have when it comes to cardiac MRI, for example. Any other questions, comments, feedback? Yes, Henk, come along.
I have two actually.
That's fine. We'll allow it.
I'll start with commenting on the ISMRM RD. So the ISMRM, that's the language is slightly different. When the ISMRM calls raw data, it's actually case-based data. So the ISMRM RD is about how do you save the protocol, how do you save case-based data, how can we reconstruct all in the same way, which is a different focus. So I think those can nicely fit together and stay alive both. The other question I had, so I led the ASL BEP, and we now see that in our own pipeline, we have tried to wrap around Chris Warden's DICOM to NIFTY, where do you find the information and how do you get ASL BIDS? And now we have this BIDS version of ASL data, which is a very nice standard, but it's very hard for people to get there. So is there because I guess this is a common problem for more advanced MRI sequences, is it an idea to make reconciliation tables? For example, one would be standardized DICOM fields that you can easily get to BIDS fields. The other would be non-standardized, so it can be vendor specific, can be in private fields, can be anonymized if you don't watch out by a PACS or something. And the third could be something you need to fed in as a user or have to sort of look at the protocol. Would it be a good idea to have this in general, like sort of reconciliation tables?
Just from the top of my head, I think that would be interesting to have, but then I think it would be good to maybe talk with Yaroslav about this DICOM sort of BEP to come to see how it's done. But it's definitely an issue you have for any, like, even QMRI data that is part of BIDS already. If you try to convert that into BIDS, sometimes there's some metadata that you need to go and find that's not even in the DICOM header. So that's definitely an issue.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's definitely something to look into for sure.
Okay.
If it doesn't make it into the specifications, definitely something that will go into a BID starter kit or any kind of like guidelines and documentation we have around this to help people convert their data, but at least have one centralized place where that lives for sure.
That would be very helpful, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think if you have question, you might as well just come along and come close, because otherwise I don't see who wants to ask things. So please feel free to stand up and join, make a queue.
I'm going to continue my role here as a hopefully constructive gadfly. That every year I see how much a huge amount of work is being put in here by exceptionally smart people to effectively agree on file names over increasingly wider and wider domains of topics, and how much work that is. And I also see things like the apps and other things which are, of actually how to use these data, and that's all getting neglected. And I think that's, when we're talking about science reproducibility, the brains in this room, I really wish could spend more time working on that as opposed to agreeing on file names. And as we're thinking about BIDS 2.0, I wonder if there's a way to sort of say, we don't need to agree on all these things. We can set general rules. Data sets can name things slightly different, can organize things slightly differently, as long as there's a translation. And I think just as we expand, it'll be so much easier to expand if you allow that flexibility into the system. And I'll also push a little bit more that the real advantage of being exactly precise and exactly the precise file names means it is easier to scrape data from multiple studies all together into one analysis without looking at your data. That is the one benefit of really standardizing perfectly. And I don't actually think that's a good scientific benefit. I think being able to scrape data without looking at, from multiple studies, without looking at the studies and seeing what's different is actually a science negative. So maybe there's a way to sort of allow more flexibility in BIDS 2.0 and allow your efforts to go to things that are more applications and more uses than spending all this time agreeing on file names. So.
Actually, Daniel, I think there was initially the initial BIDS layout was one way of actually having an organization on this that would be different, but with a specification of the layout that would actually give you homogenization of the. So I know it was in a very, very old initial plan, but I don't know it has. I have one question that I don't know how to solve. There's a number of organizations or committees and that do best practice and standards and best practices. So there's the OHBM one, there's the INCF one, there is ISMRM one, there's NOSI, there's some things like that. I wonder how part of the BIDS kind of a ecosystem, or what part of the BIDS ecosystem can be pushed and recognized more, like even wider. And I think that's important to make sure that this is also adopted at the journal level. Like when a reviewer sees some data, there's some push to actually homogenize and normalize and standardize those things, because that's how we get more efficient science being done. So I don't know what is the answer to that question. I'm just curious if anyone has some thought on how do we cut things such that we can make a standard that is recognized at and there's obviously the COBIDAS as well. There's a number of interacting kind of bodies that are yeah. Anyways, if you have any thought on that, Ariel.
Yeah, I think I can answer at least for some of that. I think those are all really great ideas. I can update about a few things that are sort of in progress. So I believe it was last year that somebody raised a similar question. I think it was Jack Van Horn who raised a similar question. What about recognizing BIDS as best practice? What part of this? So we are in the process of getting recognized by the OHBM Best Practices Committee as an OHBM best practice. It's a slow and complicated process. In particular, it's not just, it doesn't need to necessarily just be a rubber stamp. The question is how to make that into a productive conversation where good feedback would be provided and so on, and that's tricky. So it's just tricky when there's 300 contributors to something to find someone who isn't a contributor to provide that feedback. But it is happening. Regarding journals, that's something that we also have been considering. We've had conversations with editors of journals. In some cases, editors of journals say, well, this is a best practice, like describing your methods clearly, right? We don't need to differentiate BIDS via something like a badge.
or any kind of special recognition. I think we as a community, we're eager to also help journals provide reviewers and editors with information about what constitutes BIDS compliance. We're worried in particular about statements about BIDS compliance for situations where BIDS compliance hasn't actually been verified, right? And thinking about how to do that without being too heavy-handed at the same time. Some journals are happy to do things like, in this particular conversations we've had with editor-in-chief of scientific data, to make special collections that highlight these are papers that feature BIDS compliant data sets. There's a lot of things that we can do to educate the journals about BIDS and how to verify compliance, but we're eager to interact with more and more journals in that space.
Yeah, I think having like a set of journals that recognize BIDS as one of the standard that people should adopt if they can, and unless they have a good reason not to, which always can happen, is actually would actually push forward a lot. The idea. So NPRC, I think, is one of those networks that we could possibly reuse, hack to make that happen. Yeah. No, and frankly, for the SBP, for HBM SBP, like having just a rubber stamp is already it's not bad. It's, there's already so much feedback coming from the community on that on BIDS. I don't know if that committee will give you much more that you get from that room.
It is happening, except yes.
Yes. Anyways, but it's an interesting space to see how we make sure that that normalization is pushed at a place where it may be harder to move then, but and NCF has a good kind of a process for that. I think they're really good for that process.
BIDS is already recognized by NCF as a best practice. That's we've already gotten that wrong.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Hi. So mine is more technical, I think. I work with EG data, and my question is more related of what is the problem to not being able to acknowledge like all the being more like system agnostic. But for example, I work with MFF data, and I'm not able to put that data in BIDS if it's not like EDF or something like that.
Okay.
So what are like the problems that BIDS face in order to accept like all the systems, or why the idea of not accepting all the systems, just with the idea of not modifying the raw data itself?
Okay, so I'm going to try to give a fairly generic answer that's not necessarily specific to EG because I'm not an EG expert. But in this case, you would have two avenues. So either you can have converters that can take your input, the format that you work with, and convert it to something that BIDS already support, or it would be extending the list of formats that BIDS supports for that modality, right? So I don't think we have a precedent for that in BIDS, but that would be another possibility. I don't know.
So I also was not involved in the EG, but if I remember, the argument was that the EG group said we will support open file formats with open specifications. So there are plenty of vendor-specific ones, and the idea of standardizing is not to just support all the data that's out there, but to support all the different use cases. So and prioritizing open formats.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And while I'm up here, I will read two more questions. Is there anything planned for other peripheral physiology measures than eye tracking accompanying brain imaging data, such as skin conductance or cardiac activity? Those are supported, but kind of in a as you like it kind of way. And so if you're finding that you have, say, cardiac or skin conductance measures that just vary so much across different data sets that you need to come up with those conventions, those things can be added to BIDS, and that would probably, depending on how big of a challenge that is, that may or may not be a BEP. That may just be like a pull request saying, here's some recommendations. And then is there anything planned regarding spinal cord imaging? I haven't seen a BEP. I don't know what would be involved in making that extension, but that I feel like that would be BEP territory
Yeah, depending. Yeah, I'm not sure. Would have to see the specifics of this. It could be one of those that actually could already be supported, but there could be some very specific metadata or things in there that could make it BEP, or at least pull request, but maybe even BEP,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
So, hello, my question is going to be very naive and specific to functional MRI. And it's just about these sequences, like sequences that remove noise, like thermal noise, like Nordic. That it's the functional, there are a set of functional volumes, but the noise is not a separate image as volume, well, a number of volumes at the end. So the question is, that does it make sense to just, I mean, to separate or include in bits those just volumes and separate them like in bits protocol, or it just classified as functional images? Is there something outside?
Okay, I'm gonna go from memory. So I think we have some support for sequences like VASO that has where we have to sort of track which volume has some specific acquisition parameter that is different from the previous one. So we can talk more in details, but I think there are ways in bits that we can support this. It might not be explicit, but you might just be able to reuse what is already existing in there to make it work with that type of sequence. But we would need to sort of make it explicit. Maybe it could just be opening a very simple pull request to see how we can support that. So the best way is, for this case, for example, would be open an issue to start the conversation, and then we can see about the specifics of making that happen. That would be, I think, for this something like this, I think that would be the process on how to do this.
Just as a note, that issue is 1024 on the BIDS specification, and there's an open pull request 1451 that needs reviewers.
Well, there you go. Anyone else? Nope. We still have a bit of time, so. I didn't bring any tap shoes, so I cannot do like a number of tap dancing just to entertain you for 10 minutes. Hank? Oh, yeah, I mean, I can, but then I need to talk about PyBits as well. I mean, I can. I mean, so no, actually, I'm going to make it more general, actually, to talk about PyBits, BIDS MATLAB, and INCP BIDS. So if any of you out there has to write code to interact with a BIDS data set, sort of figure out how many participants you have, how many, you want to sort of, I just want to get the bold file for that participant, for that task, with that acquisition from that second session I had. Don't go around and start writing your own code for this. You have tools like PyBits and INCP BIDS for Python and BIDS MATLAB that will help you do this. And the idea is that the way they both work, more or less, that they all work, is that they're going to sort of index all the data, or more or less all the data that you have in your data set, and then you can sort of query the output of this to sort of ask specific question to say, hey, retrieve the sort of that participant's data on the second session, and now go and get me the metadata. So please don't rewrite code that others have written and try to reuse some of those tools. So that's, I think, yeah, just in case you weren't aware of those tools, just make your life easier, please. And if they don't work for some reason for your very specific use case, open an issue. We are fairly responsive on those, and we'll try to improve them. Oops.
I'm just going to jump in and say, if you were writing that code anyway, you could also write it and let us all benefit from it. So more contributors to PyBids and BIDS MATLAB and our BIDS, and I think there's a Julia one now. I'm sure we'll always be welcome.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot. There is an equivalent for R as well, and I think that that's the most underdeveloped at the moment. So if you do a lot of R and for some reason you need to interact with BIDS dataset, it would be amazing to see more effort put in there, because I'm sure some people could definitely benefit from it. and you'll get to learn a lot because being like working on those tools, you're going to learn a lot of things. Like if you think that you don't have the sort of levels to do advanced coding, the maintainers of those packages, I think are pretty cool people and welcoming to new members. I mean, I'm one of them, so maybe. Yeah, we're very happy to get contributions from any levels and suggestions. So please just don't hesitate to reach out, really. 6 more minutes. I'm sure you all have questions. Come on. And if you're too shy, use the app. Oh, yeah, there we go. I think that's why they made the app, right? It's like, I'm not standing up, walking down that hole.
Just kind of following up on that last question, can I get like a show of hands how many people in the room have either used PyBids or ANCP bids in one of their pipelines or written their own version of that? Like so how many people found the documentation for PyBids like sufficient? All right. So like the PyBids documentation is really rough. It makes it really hard to find out how to find the files that you want. And it takes about 5 minutes of frustration for someone to say, fuck this, I'm writing my own. And like, it's not hard if all you're doing is grepping for files. So like, if you want to stop people from writing their own, we need to focus a little bit of time on improving the documentation for PyBids.
Yeah, I agree. I think that yeah, if you're frustrated, you might not be the only one. So let us know, and we can also sort of like work with you to improve documentation. That's definitely something that that we want to do as well. Definitely. Yes.
So this is also just, I guess, curious, a general question about so these different tools for indexing the BIDS data sets, especially across languages. So what degree would you say there's an effort to standardize the interface for that? Because I mean, that's one of the sort of nice things, right, about working with the BIDS data set is you kind of know it's there. There's another side of that, which is like, it's really nice to be able to interact with the data set in a way that feels both native to whatever language you're working with, but also is BIDS-ish itself. So I would be curious to hear about comments on standardizing the interfaces and ways of interacting with the data sets across these different tools.
So I'm going to give a very sort of narrow, specific answer on this one. Oh, sorry. So is there any work, or how are we thinking about sort of uniformizing or making sure that tools that whose goal is to index and query BIDS data set have more or less if not the same API, but sort of something that is similar across tools, so that you'd be easier to use one or the other, and it would still sort of feel sort of fairly normal as relative to the language that you're using, right? I cannot give you a general answer on this, but I know that BIDS MATLAB has been, for example, developed after PyBids. So I'm trying to mimic a lot of the API of BIDS MATLAB on what PyBids is doing, so that we are kind of sort of in sync. Same in terms of features. I try to go like, oh, that thing exists there, so I'm trying to also develop it there. But there is no sort of, it's not like it's just all because I want to do it that way, but there's no sort of common agreement across tools to do it that way. So I have no idea, for example, how BIDS R or like some of the R tools are doing it. But it would make sense to try to align with this in general. Yeah.
Well, just an answer to that, we have proposed recently like a new API for PyBids.
You got a mic? Yeah, come to the mic because we really can hear you. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know all the walking is really annoying, but.
Well, hello. So Chris probably has the issue number, but we did propose a new API for PyBids, and we're looking for community feedback. And hopefully, if that ever gets implemented, it would also go with a revamping of the docs. And actually, the idea is to simplify the API because currently it's a little bloated. And I think that a lot of the confusion comes from the fact that certain functions that do different things have similar names. So, Chris, if you have the issue number, let me know. But we would love feedback on that. So.
Well, in this, maybe I'm in the same boat as Dan was, because I'm a bit wondering. I'm trying to figure out almost what the use case is for something like PyBids or RBids. And maybe that's partly because I'm just like, well, I know what my data sets are. I know what the naming convention is. I just paste together the subject 1 / run 1 / and I get my nifty. So what do I need an API for? Is that, I guess, I know that we're kind of automating and pipelining more, but that does seem to I'm not, I don't know how much of that, or what, yeah.
So I'm going to go, sure, you've written some code for your first data set. Now you have a second data set where you have different entities, different names. Now you need to rewrite your code or adapt it. Or someone else in your lab is not aware that this code exists for your use case. The idea is that I think those packages are there to sort of like minimize wheel reinvention for what we are all eventually doing.
Yes, and I actually work with quite a lot of different data sets and different projects, but part of it is that I don't want a grad student to be coming up and just blankly pulling runs. I want them to take the time to look at what are the data sets, how do we pull in the quality control measures and the behavioral measures so that we're only pulling the parts of the data set for a particular analysis that makes sense. And a bit of friction there can be a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think it's also just the general idea of also how you run quality control in general on BIDS data set and make them easy to navigate especially if the data set gets pretty large so that people know what to look at. But I mean, we're making people's life easier, but we cannot, we cannot like force them to just like, we all know we should be looking at our data, but it's also, people still have to do the work, right?
We would have had fun yesterday with the QC session, but.
Maybe another application for that, for ATP bits, PyBits or whatever, is to standardize the interaction, because bits also can change its version. And for example, with these YAML schemas, you can basically, instead of writing code that is specific to a version, you can write code that is usable for multiple bits versions. That's the other thing.
I think we are over time though, so I think we should, Russ, go for it. But I think after that, I think we're probably gonna have to pass to the next session.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, which is I wanted everybody to thank the maintainers for the amazing amount of work that they do.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up, but thanks everyone for coming. And if you couldn't ask a question or didn't dare to ask a question, you know our faces now, so come and find us and ask us. Or otherwise, we're on GitHub.